I work as VP of Marketing with Wixo. And on behalf of Wixo and Abiobi, I welcome each one of you to D2C Verse. Well, as we all are here, I thank you for giving us your time and gracing us with your presence. Now, when we talk about D2C, we all know that D2C business over a period of time has evolved from just being another medium, another channel for retail businesses to reach out to their clients and customers. It has actually transformed into a way of life, its own universe, right? So now, if we talk about brands, each of a brand which connects with various stakeholders, experts in the industry ranging from performance marketing, ranging from experts who are in logistics, shipping and whatnot. All of these people build their own universe, have their own superpowers. Now, with a multiverse of so many brands, their stakeholders and people who work with them, each one of them is ruling their world. D2C Verse is an initiative which brings all of those universes together so that we can collaborate, we can build a close-knit community and sync all of the powers so that we can build something better, do something so powerful that we as individual businesses cannot even imagine. Now, talking about how D2C Verse is initiated. Our main goal is to help each other. We as a community come together, learn from each other, share experience, share expertise, and also ensure that we all grow together into something that we can be proud of. Now, coming to the next point, we as D2C Verse are looking forward, each one of you, intellectual minds like you, to come together and work along. We all would be able to make something great. Talking about how things will be following here, rather than this just being another conference, another meetup, we want to focus on getting some great things out of it. So rather than just having some keynote discussions, we will be having some insightful conversations. There will be multiple discussions that we'll be doing, ranging from how do we scale a D2C time, then how do we ensure that we have the perfect performance strategies, and unraveling how the funding for D2C businesses work. Now, without further ado, I would like to call up Umair, who is CEO of Wixo.
Thanks. Hi everyone. Apologies that we had to shift, but I think approximately there are about 45-50 people here, and about 50 people warned me that that's going to happen. This is Bangalore, so no surprises there, right? But I'm so glad that we had a great turnout. This is the first version of D2C Verse. Like Saurabh mentioned, that we didn't want to have another event, another meetup, which it is turning out to be. But the format is that we want to learn from you guys. We want to create a value chain where brands learn from each other, brand learns from enablers. We can build a common platform. We can build together. We can build a community. Right, a community that helps other founders, and this is the only industry, frankly, D2C Verse. It's a universe in itself, and this is the only place where I've seen founders helping other founders, not just in terms of capital, in terms of knowledge sharing, in terms of sharing their expertise, helping other brands, and it's such a vibrant community. And I've seen multiple founders who reach a certain stage, a certain scale, and now helping other founders, early stage companies into scaling up, funding, helping them connect with the right people. So I just feel that it's a start of something. We want to be able to bring all of you guys together, talk to you, brainstorm ideas, and do it in a place which is less rainy, maybe next time. But Bangalore, I've been told that's impossible. And I've spent considerable time here, by the way. My first investment check, Nitya is here. 314 Capital were the first investors to invest in Wixo. And you would not believe, I had a phone call with Pranav. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I had a phone call with Pranav Pai from 314, but back then when he was in Stanford. So this is gazillion years back I'm talking. And on one Skype call he said we are investing. I didn't know who he was. I just had a Skype call, and but they trusted us to build something, and then overall over the last 6-7 years we've continued to build this ecosystem, and we recently merged into ShipRocket, which acquired 75% of the company, and now we're part of the ShipRocket House of Brands, right? So without further ado, I would like to invite Chinu as the first, we'll start with the first panel. Chinu and Siddharth from Chinu from Rubans. Let's, guys, please. For sound issues. There has to be some startup, right? There has to be like some Bangalore-based startup that's solving for sound issues in events. Has to be, like, I'm pretty sure there is. So anyway, without further ado, this particular panel of discussion, we're talking about scaling up direct-to-consumer brands. I want to just keep it very casual and candid and talk about the journeys that you guys have seen as direct-to-consumer founders and brand custodians, right? So very first question, from the very strategy. Did you guys pivot a lot of times before you had that aha moment of, oh, now this is working? Or what was the journey like? What was the journey to finding that one position where you were like, oh, this is fantastic, this is working? Chinu, I'll just put that question first to you.
So as a startup founder, first of all, hi everyone. Such a pleasure to be here and talk to so many B2C founders, people who are from the same ecosystem. Such a nice moment. So coming to the aha moment, I think as a founder, as a startup bootstrap founder, the aha moment are not really to plan. Okay, it's a learning journey. We keep doing mistakes, we keep learning from it. There are systems, there are processes. A lot of time we're not aware of those processes and we make mistakes and we learn. And probably that sometime 10th and sometimes 100th time after repeating some, not a mistake, but learning process is when you reach the aha moment. And that is what happens to every bootstrap startup, I would say.
Not sure.
Yeah, hi, I'm Siddharth, founder at Snitched. We are a men's fast fashion brand. Yeah, so we are a Bangalore-based men's fast fashion brand. For me, I think it all started way back in 2009. When at the age of 17, I thought I would be an entrepreneur. Started off with a small retail store in Bangalore and then got into productions and then saw a huge gap in the market where fashion was delivered in maybe 2 seasons or 4 seasons. Like brands would have their summer collection and winter collections, or maybe summer, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Saw a huge gap there where fashion for men was not available throughout the year. Usually, any brand would forecast their, designs maybe a year or 2 years beforehand and then start working towards them. We took a very different approach where we thought we would go with more designs, lesser inventory, and which would obviously improvise our conversion rates. So we have anything and everything for every person that comes on the website. So it was all about instance. It was maybe because of COVID, we actually just started with a team of 4 people. Today we are 100 plus family, and we started off with barely about 5 orders a day to maybe do 2,000 plus across the channels. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I absolutely had a pleasure of working with both of you guys, and the brands that you were with, right? So I think my next question is coming from just what you guys said. Is that fine? The product was said, and you experimented. I'm sure you dabbled with few designs, and something worked, something stuck, something didn't. But the bigger question, obviously, is now that you had something that was working, how did you build a brand, right? That stayed with people, because that's the harder, I think, thing to solve. I think probably only thing harder than that would be solving the sound issues at events. But what was that journey like? And this is something that I want to hear as not just an enabler but also a B2C enthusiast, and a lot of other brands also sitting here want to understand, because usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nitya, in some of the board meetings or investor meetings that you go as part of your portfolio brands, isn't that like a really big topic of conversation?
It's one of the many topics.
It's one of the many topics. So let's hear out from you. You guys have built fantastic brands, a brand that is recognized today. Funny story. Before even Ruban's started working with us, I saw the box in my wife's collection closet, and that's when so that is that recall. So what was that journey like from product market fit to building a brand? What was your journey? First, I think let's hear it from Chino first, and then Siddharth, if you can also share.
So see, we started about 7 years back, and we were an offline brand. We had 5 stores, and a year before COVID, we shut our offline stores and went to online. Well, being an offline brand, we understood one thing, that there has to be something for every customer who comes to your store. Now, whether you're offline or online. Now, because we were in the mall, we had people who would come to us for a product which was $299, and we would also have people who would come to us for a 5,000 or 15,000 rupee product, because it was a mall, it was open to everyone. So with that learning, when we went online, with the same thought, when I went online, most of the brands had their very, very typical niche. There were brands who said, okay, we will only serve if your style is ethnic. Then there were brands who said, we will serve if your style is very high-end. And then there were brands who said Western. We said, okay, you come to our website and we'll give you, no matter what your style is, no matter what the price point is, we will create something for you and we will give you that. So the starting point was giving them huge variety and not confining it to a certain maybe price point or a style. That was the step 1 that we did. We also worked very closely with influencers and the celebrities. Now the challenge, here most of the brands are even making a mistake that they add that influencer cost to their, they start thinking how much is the sales I'm getting. Okay, the one influencer bought something and how much sales have I got from that. One learning I'd like to share, very important, do not put it on that. Because influencer is only creating your brand awareness. No way she's going to get you sales. And if you're getting it, you're lucky. So brilliant job by the influencer, your team, all of that. But 90% of the time they don't do that because it's a brand awareness campaign. The moment we start separating both, I think we start seeing results, because then we're not disappointed with seeing that, okay, I have given 100 products out, but I'm not getting sales. But eventually, say 2 years, 1 year down the line, it will result to sales. The brand awareness, influencers, and today it's economical. It's we have people like Victor to help us, we have people like Adiobi to help us to also amplify that effect. So, if you have an influencer who's going your stuff, amplify that effect. Put it on your emails, put it on your marketing campaign, put it on your Instagram, and do that. So these are the things that we did. And also we started writing to our customers, you know, a very personal note, which really made a lot of difference. People, see, today is a time when people are not just paying for the product, they want to feel nice. And with the amount of choices they have, they really want you to thank them for, you know, choosing you. So we have to find a way to do that. So these are the few things that we did. Thanks.
I mean, absolutely, she's pretty much covered, but for me, I think the key is retention. Uh, you have spent a lot of money getting a customer on your website or, through some of the other ad, you already spent that money. And it is very important to retain them. So retention is the key. Thankfully, we have a very strong retention rate of about 40 to 45%. And it has just been about 16 months that we've started. And apart from that, it is also understanding your consumer. Who is your target audience? What are they looking for? How could you, deliver that? Because we are not solving any big problem. It is just that we are, making them look better, delivering, fashionable clothes. And thanks to your Tinder and Instagram, everyone wants that, right swipe. Everyone wants to look good. And of course, the other part is your marketing. I take it as an investment rather than spends. So you'll have to invest in marketing today, and then probably you get your returns. 6 months, 8 months. You'll have to be patient.
Thanks, Shenu. Thanks, Siddharth. So really, I think the 2 cents that I got out of it is that marketing is a long game. I mean, you can't just spray and pray and think that it's going to turn out sales. I think you have to plan it out, but you also have to spread it out across. And the ROI is not only driven by the sales, right? ROI is also the brand value that influencers and your customers are creating. So let's deep dive into that a little bit more. You said knowing your customers and understanding and analytics, but what are the key components that you look at that because I'm sure all kinds of people are shopping at your but some of them are your ideal customers, because I'm sure 80-20 rule, right? 80% of revenue coming from those core 20% people. So did you find out those matrices fairly late into the brand cycle, or were you very clear from the start that who are your 20% drivers of the growth? What was like that journey, and how did you pinpoint those? Because these will be some of the tangible things I'm sure that people here and us also want to know. That at what time you said, oh, this is the kind of customer that I want to sell to. Sure, there will always be those other people who will come and browse and leave, but how did you find out about those 20% people that that were responsible for a large chunk of your revenue? And then what did you do? Like you said, you can have to connect with them, really thank them. What special thing did you do? Anything special to make sure that these 20% people are bringing another 20% people like them, right? So just talk about what are those few brand matrices, and I think you can go first, about some of the things that you did or still doing to find out those really people that identify with your brand and are the key drivers of growth.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is you need to create a brand and just not be a label. When I say that, it means you need to have a story. Why did you start? You need to have that emotional connect first of all with your customers, so they know that this is my go-to brand. If I'm going to Goa, that if I go to Snitch, I'll get a pair of quads, or we've understood, be it the season, be it the colors that are in trend. For example, we just launched a jet black denim with about 50 pieces. Today we sell almost about 150-200 pieces on a daily basis. So it is understanding your data, And the beauty of D2C, especially for us, because we are only our own platform brand, we are not present on any marketplace yet. So we have all the customer data, and it is very important that we go through that data. Just to give you a few examples, we know that tier 1 is performing better for us, and tier 2 and tier 3 is not performing. So our marketing budgets are set according to the kind of tiers that are working for us. Secondly, it is towards the kind of products. What are your hero products? You need to identify maybe 10-15 of your hero products that ये तो मेरे को 1000 order दिन का देगा, and the other products would cater in and chip in, and then you might find another 10 good hero products out of them, and then you keep building those hero products. The most important thing is customer service, especially for us because we are solely on our own platform. Customer service is very important. So when we started off, I mean, me and Chetan is here. We used to message people on Instagram. Even at midnight, we used to chat to each other that I'm handling this guy, you handle this guy. So that is how the whole journey started. So at the start, it is all hustle, and then it is 50% hustle, 50% technology, and then you shift gears to 100% technology. So we adapted towards that. We got WhatsApp bots. The whole journey of your order is going through that one single bot. Customer is always engaged that hey, your order is shipped, it is out for delivery, it is delivered, video live, and then you again retarget them. Even on returns and exchange. So we built a technology that most brands don't usually do. Is that refunds are usually initiated after the product comes back to your warehouse, and then you initiate refund maybe after 24 hours, which actually takes about 7 to 10 days. We said as soon as the product is picked up, we would do the refunds immediately. So all these small things really helped us scale. And in terms of analytics also, there are a few metrics that we usually see on a daily basis. What is your conversion rate like? On which product, on which landing page you had how many customers, and why the conversion rate yesterday was maybe more and today is less. So it is, I mean, few things might work for me, few things might not work, for Chino and so on. But it is all about understanding your whole business, and once you have that data, you could do a lot with it. When you could play around a lot with it.
So, coming to your point of identifying the 20% customer, well, I say it's a difficult one. I can identify my 20% product that does well. I can identify my 20% market. Because I'm not a D2C, so I'm not an offline brand where we are meeting people, right? Here, all we understand is, any matrix that you see, all you understand is, okay, the customer came, she opened say 5 products, and out of 5 pages, scrolled for 20 minutes, scrolled for 5 minutes, and bought. So identifying that particular 20% on D2C, very challenging. We are still learning on that, I would say. But understanding the 80% business where it's coming from, that's something which is in your hand. That is about just reading the data, right? Reading the cities that you're getting the clicks from. Give you a small example, because we work with jewelry, and so there's urban jewelry, and then there's a tier 2 city kind of style. So if it's a very simple gold bangle, they would run the ad only in tier 2 city, because there every married woman would want to wear a bangle. Whereas if I have to run an ad in say Bangalore or Mumbai, it will be more about back to office, night party, friends, outing with friends. So these are different things that we have to understand, and as Siddharth rightly put, it's about understanding the overall business. So yes, we are still struggling to identify that customer. Thanks.
Really appreciate the insights, and I think that's really insightful for me as well, because for me data is, I'm a 100% data person. I've always been. When we talk to brands, when we look at brands' data on a day-to-day basis, it's phenomenal, right? That how different data can be, and how similar at the same time, right? So for example, conversion rates you talked about, and I've seen 0.8 to about 1.5 as an industry standard, but some landing pages sometimes convert at 7, 8, 9%, right? So so that kind of correct. For and that's what that's what I meant understanding your customers, because and for one of the things that we are seeing, and this is something that that goes to all the new age D2C brands that we are seeing and working with, is that they are really building towards a very loyal customer base, right? A customer base that's fierce towards that brand. And they are becoming the ambassadors or influencers, micro-influencers of the brand. So I feel that maybe that's a great problem if I could solve tomorrow using data. If I could tell you who your next brand ambassadors are going to be, who are the people that you should. For Rubens, obviously, when the brand has an influencer in-house. So, sure, I hope that I can become like that one day, but I would need a lot of plastic surgery to look, half as good looking as. You mentioned about you were not on marketplaces, and this is again a very touchy topic, and there's a lot being written, and and Shopify has been a big driver in the space. Shiprocket has been a big driver in the space. But I want to talk about, for a direct-to-consumer brand, is there a mix of marketplace versus own brand versus retail, right? Obviously, I mean, we were not discounting, direct-to-consumer brands are not opening shops. They are, right? My mentor and one of the earliest backers, from Lenskart, they had this journey, right? Lenskart started off with a direct-to-consumer brand, and then they and now 70% of their business is coming from retail outlets and 30% is coming from their website. But let's just touch upon that topic as well while we are talking about scaling of direct-to-consumer brands. I want to know your thoughts around marketplaces and your own website and retail outlets, and why, on what weightage are you giving to each, and why you're not, I just want your maybe secret sauce or personal opinions or brand opinions on that. And this is not, I don't want this topic to steer, I just want raw, honest opinions about your brands and why did you take that decision. Because I want to understand directly from the brand custodians, right? What was their thinking in doing that or not doing that? So Jean, can you take up that question, and then Siddharth can also.
So for me, for Romance, it's been all three. So we were an offline brand. We were highly profitable when we shut our offline stores. Now when I say this to people, in fact sometimes I surprise myself that why did I really do that? But that was the time, and then we moved to online, and we are obviously on a D2C on our own website. So what happened is, now when you have an offline brand, the area that you can target is really small and the investment is going to be huge. So think about it before you take that decision. Also for a startup, what happens is bandwidth. Sometimes it's not just funds. It's also about the bandwidth. Now if I'm on online, my entire country is my customer, right? That's my canvas. I can sell in Raipur, Jodhpur, Mumbai, everywhere. Whereas if I have a store in Koramangala, which I had, I can only sell to a Koramangala customer. So that's a call I would say you need to take depending on the bandwidth and the funds. Coming to the marketplaces. Well, getting to marketplaces is more economical because getting customers to your website is going to be tough. It is going to be much more expensive. So we, at that time, because we were bootstrapped, I had started the brand which is 3 lakh rupees. We did not, and we are still bootstrapped, we do not have an investor. So for us, turnaround times were really important. It was about starting to sell. One was brand, but we needed sales to survive because we did not have an investor. So we went to Myntra. I just got awarded today, just before this event at 3:30 for the consequently second year for being the highest GMV in our category on Myntra.
Wow.
So I just did that call at about 3:30, and that's when after that this started, the event started. So there the competition is going to be tough. But I would suggest to taste that, because when you compete with 400 brands directly, it really teaches you a lot of things. It's pricing, it's market, it's trend. Because when a customer is walking into, it's like coming to your website, they're walking into your store. So say 30% sold because he liked the image that he saw on the ad and probably wants to buy. On the marketplace, you're competing with like 400 brands, and that is something which I would suggest one should taste to understand what really customer wants. So we lead there as well, and then we have our own website. Now, getting customer to our website is expensive, even now. But today, because we have such a high, so we have a 30% return rate on Myntra, and on our website it's about 42. So we have built some loyal customers there. But I would say taste both, because without knowing, without competing, and that's a tough competition. Initial 6 months is going to be very difficult. But if you win there, then D2C is going to be much easier journey. Thanks.
Thanks.
I would slightly disagree here because I think offline presence is as important as online. The timing needs to be right. So just to start off, we started more like a B2B brand where we used to just supply stocks to retailers pan India, and then it was just like a normal B2B business. And then the pandemic hit us, and we were left with a huge inventory. The first thought that came to my mind was maybe go on a Myntra and Najio and try and liquidate stocks. But then just thought, A, we wouldn't be making any money there. B, nor the brand would get any recognition. We would just be one among those thousands. So on a Shopify platform, barely about 35 products, we started. And from day one, we saw good traction. We barely had about 2,000 followers on our Instagram page. Today we have almost 150,000. So it was a journey that we chose, and I think if you have to choose between your own website, marketplace, and EBO, I would say first is your own website, because you need to understand first. Today we have customers from Jabalpur, very strange cities that I've not even heard of, and we have very good, returning customers from there. So it would give you a lot of insights, what is selling where and how do you strategize your entire sale. And then of course is marketplace. We again not explored marketplace as much, but all of this data would help you establish your offline retail stores. So if Hyderabad is the best performing city, you could choose the exact pin code where is your traction highest. It gives you like so many insights that it helps you in your decision making. So I would say all three are very important. It is just about the timing when you want to choose what.
Perfect, thanks. I think we got a perspective of both. Someone who says that you should be on marketplaces, and someone who says, and it's exactly the same in the market as well. It's every D2C brand, almost like it's 50-50 split. 50% would say I would never go and sell, and 50% I would always.
No, it depends on how much time. So it depends on how much time and funds do you have. If you really want to turn around like much faster, then go to marketplace. At least your numbers will start rolling. But if you're someone who has a lot of patience, then you can start with a D2C. So it's all about I think entrepreneurship is all about your instinct. Whatever you feel is right. It's like a baby, right? Like the mother knows what is good for my baby, and no one else can tell you that. This is exactly the same thing here.
Except we don't have parents who are teaching us on. We're dangling the baby, throwing it around, sometimes bumping its head, so we all do that. But last and final questions. I've been told for the time, been shown them watch a couple of times. So last question, very quickly. In because we're going to be showing this as a hopefully a YouTube video, and we'll be circulating for a lot of early stage ventures as well. In your words, a word of advice that you want to give to someone who's starting up, who look up to Snitch and Romance as brands, like we were talking off stage that we meet D2C brands now who are looking up to you as their inspiration, that this is the scale I want to be. In your words, what are the maybe one piece of advice or two pieces of advice that you would give Shinu, if you can start, and Siddharth also, of brands that are starting up? What are the advices that you would give?
So, read the data, very important. Trust only data. So when it comes to data, don't trust your instinct. Trust the data. Just read it right. Secondly, have patience. Very important. It's a different journey for different brands. For some, there might be founders who will come and tell you, oh, 6 months we were just everywhere and we were the winners. And there are brands who will come to you and say, well, it took us 3 years. But for most of the people, the needle doesn't move before 2 years for sure. Like for it to move, you need to be really patient. I also, there's something which I always tell the founders, especially women entrepreneurs, always, please don't start business with a backup plan. Do not say that, oh, I have a job, I have another business, I'm going to give it a try, and then let's see. So the moment you have something with backup plan, less likely for you to give your 100% to it. So patience, most important, and don't start anything with a backup plan.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it is the risk-taking ability, most importantly. The difference, a lot of people talk, right? Why is a brand still called startup when it's reached, say, about 100 crores in revenue, 200 crores in revenue? It is because the day you stop taking those risks, when the same risk that you were taking when you started off, once that changes, then you're no more a startup. So I think taking those risks, having your gut intact, and believing in your team, building good quality team. It is about process, understanding your data, understanding your consumers, and just try and be ahead of your competitors.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. And I hope that this discussion was of value to the audience who's sitting here. It was to me for sure. Like I got to learn directly from the horse's mouth, and I'm so glad that we had you guys over. This is what we wanted, right? A little FaceTime with the brands that we work with, because when you talk to, like I said, you talk to a brand custodian, someone who the passion and the energy that they talk with is completely different. And that just it's very how do I say this? It's very sticky, right? It translates, and I can feel that energy. So thanks for that, and thanks for coming over. I would now hand it off to Saurabh, and I think we have our next panel discussion. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Wow, that was a wonderful conversation, wasn't it? We all learned so many things. Well, that's what I was talking about before. Thank you so much, Siddharth, Chinu, and Umair, for this wonderful conversation. Well, for our second round of discussion, which will revolve around performance marketing, I would like to invite Rohin Mittal, who is Director for RDOD. Along with him, I would invite Muskan Sancheti, who is the co-founder of the State Play. And I would also like to invite Dhaval, who is the founder of Stuff Cool.
I think Akash is the moderator here. introduce each of us on the family ISO. So I am Akash, I look after growth and partnerships for IDOT. A quick introduction about Rohin, who heads IDOT as a director. And Muskan is the most youngest, I would say, co-founder amongst us today over here. She co-founded the State Plate along with Raghav, who is sitting there amongst you guys. And then there is Dhaval, who founded Stuffwood. Let's get started. The topic for today's discussion will revolve around demystifying your performance marketing strategies when you're scaling up a brand and trying to grow your revenues multifold. So, as we are aware that performance marketing being a driver but needs some support or some complementary helping hands from your, which becomes a core element of brand building, where brands do social media marketing also, brands do influencer campaigns also, but all these things are amplified ultimately by performance marketing. I would directly start away with the first question to Rohit, our director here, that since the landscape of, our e-commerce ecosystem got a boom last 4 to 5 years. Recently, Facebook as a platform introduced some changes, which were your iOS 14 changes. And the effect of which was that brands, in terms of tracking their audience, were facing a lot of problems. So, such changes, and in near future, Google would be banning the cookies caches. So, tracking the audience segment into cohorts, and then doing targeted communications as per the target base. So, how to overcome these challenges, particularly overcome your iOS 14 and upcoming changes, basically how to track your customer activity. Over to you.
I think the right panelist for this question is Dhaval, because he's into the business of selling iPhone and Mac accessories. We are one of the largest online players. But I'm sure everybody of you would have seen some impact of iOS tracking going on Facebook. And that's more to do with privacy data, and the impact is much lesser in India. But there are ways to overcome. Facebook is also doing certain things in terms of addressing this gap. But what we can do is look at other alternatives and other geographies. So at a certain scale, it makes sense to look at international markets if the product stands out. Secondly, we have newer platforms coming up. So MX Player, Takata, these are still in the nascent stages. But a platform like Snapchat, they're already having almost 100 million users on a monthly basis. Very niche audience. If your product is slightly low on the average order value, you'll be able to make a good ROI on that platform. And thirdly, you need to kind of leverage beyond Facebook as well, de-leverage from Facebook rather, and move to Google and YouTube as a channel. YouTube consistently gives you a low cost per click compared to Facebook, and Facebook is good for an upper funnel approach, but in terms of reach, if you want to expand your horizons, expand your cities, YouTube has a 30% wider base than Facebook. So the moment you feel some saturation on Facebook coming up, you should definitely look at other platforms in terms of expanding the reach in audience. And once you expand the reach, the conversions will take time. If you purely in terms of data, if you look at your Google Analytics, it's a 3 to 8 click journey from first interaction to the purchase. So you need to reach out to that audience at least 5 to 6 times, generate 5 to 6 clicks on the website, and then make sure that they convert as customers, or you decide that that's not your target market. But I think we need to keep looking at alternatives that come to Facebook and Google, maybe not as powerful, but definitely they'll give you some incremental revenue and that.
Thank you, Rohit. Next one goes to Muskan. I would like Muskan to brief us in very short about her journey and State Plate's journey particularly, but before that a question for you, which is that mostly today we see that performance marketing or marketers as we talk about, particularly track your cost in terms of CPMs, then they look at returns, ROAs and all. So they ignore other elements or key metrics which affect your returns overall. So Muskan, my question is that along with these famous metrics, what all are the other key metrics that a brand or a performance marketer should focus upon while scaling up, say, your online business?
So I'll start with my introduction before going to that. Hi, like Akash said, I am the co-founder of the State Plate, and just realized the youngest founder here, so it's actually a little weird being on the panel. I honestly think I have a lot more to learn from everybody here, but I'll try to share the little of what I do know. So, a little about State Plate. We started about 2 years ago, July 2020. We sell packaged Indian regional food. So, trying to redefine regional food. So, right from your mulkus from Tamil Nadu to something like a Gobind Bhog rice from West Bengal or the saffron from Kashmir. We're bringing packaged regional food on one platform. It's been a good 2 years journey. I think performance marketing has been a big part of our acquisition on our website. Coming to the question, yeah, I think when we started, we were also looking at ROAS. ROAS was the biggest metric, and we were just looking at how do you maximize ROAS. But as we went on, started realizing that there are other equally important metrics that you should track. I'll talk about 2-3 of them. The first, I think, is CTR, which is click-through rate. So, CTR is basically how many people are clicking on your ad copy and then reaching your landing page. And that is probably one of the first clicks in the entire funnel from viewing your ad, from impression to conversion. So, CTR is important because, again, I think every bit in the funnel, the higher that the percentage is, the more your conversion rate will be. We track CTR very closely, and I think one good way to look at that is how good your ad copy is. And we've noticed a lot of D2C brands actually don't spend enough or give enough attention on the ad copy itself, or how attractive it is, how relevant it is, how many people are actually interested. So we've spent a lot of time actually A/B testing different ad copies, whether it's from carousel, single images, reel formats, video formats, different placements as well, to see what works the best for us. Even in terms of messaging, tried a lot of different, say, text-based, video-based, image-based. So since we're a food brand, food photography-based, people photography-based. And I think then you sort of come down to a conclusion ki what is working best for your brand, what is giving you the highest click-through rate. Because if your click-through rate is high, say 2-3% ke upar, that leads to a higher sort of conversion at the end of the funnel. So I would say that is one important metric. The second would be AOV, which is average order value. Obviously AOV is different for different categories. Dhabal's AOV is obviously very different from what ours would be. But I would say try to maximize the AOV of your category. So we started at about 500, 550. Today we're at about 750, 800 average order value. And been doing a lot of things, upselling, cross-selling, working on the assortment, giving offers beyond a certain value. Because overall, if your average order value is good, then your unit economics are better, ROAS starts making more sense, because end of the day it's easier to convert one customer and maximize sales from them rather than converting 2 customers with half that average order value essentially. So I think that would be the second metric that we track. Yeah, that's what I'm able to think of from top of my head.
Ruben, would you want to throw a light on something which is like, what are the key factors which should be looked upon while optimizing the campaigns?
So I think everybody is aware of tracking ROI and the click cost as Ms. Manu covered. So couple of more pointers especially from Google Analytics, what we should look at. One is the average session duration. So any campaign that you run, what we've started tracking of it recently is how much time is that audience spending on the website. A lot of cases you will find audience time variation anywhere from a 3 second to almost 2 minutes, depending on the nature of the projects.
and you should immediately relook at the campaign which are sending you traffic which is less than 20 seconds. Because in 20 seconds, below 20 seconds, it is very tough to engage a consumer, and the product page view sessions, everything is very, very less. Remarket that audience. If it is more than 30 seconds, then you will find out whether you are able to convert them to the ROI or not. The second metric for any traffic or let's say upper funnel campaign is your average bounce rate. So average bounce rate would vary between, I define the bounce rate as well. So bounce rate is when people land on the website. If you don't do any click on the page or you don't move to any new page, that is counted as a 100% bounce. So lower the bounce rate, better the efficiency of the traffic. So make sure that the bounce rate is anywhere between a 40 to 70% rate. Anything above 70%, again you should relook at what kind of quality of traffic is coming, or relook at the campaigns from which that is coming. Both the factors are correlated, your bounce rate and your average session duration. Both will be largely inefficient or both will be efficient. So that's a kind of a proven model that traffic is coming, spending time and exploring more pages or more products on your website. So I think these two key matrices, other than the bottom funnel campaign, so your top funnel campaign, your video view campaigns, you should track these matrices. There's one overall metric that we also should look at. If you are spending for a decently large amount of time, let's say over 6 months, Google Analytics gives you brand search uplift, which is, let's say, if I take an example of, let's say, State Grid, if I'm marketing for the last 6 months, the searches that happen on Google on a daily basis or a monthly basis, that volume should go. That's the key and core traffic that you could generate on the website, the highest converting traffic on the website. So you should keep a look on that volume as well. That volume should increase with your increase in spends or the longevity of the spends. So these three metrics I think we should keep in mind once we start scaling up or driving traffic to the website.
Thank you. So, as was the discussion going on previously also, that everywhere we hear nowadays database decisioning. Why is this becoming a buzzword right now? Previously where it was. Data existed previously also. Right now we started using it, putting it to better use through AI, MLs, everything. My last question to Dhaval would be that database decisioning, okay fine. But how are you going to, how it basically supports you in terms of your performance marketing? What all are the key data points you look into while setting up the campaigns particularly, while optimizing? But overall, how database decisioning is helping us, and should it be only database decisioning or some hindsight experience-based decisioning also?
So in my case, I don't think there's much database decisioning as much as trial and error, like she said. You don't know what's going to work, what's going to stick. So, I mean, we literally onboarded with Adobe last May. It's been a year. For 4 months, I would be sending random texts to Rohit in the middle of the night saying nothing is working. This is a failed attempt. I just go back to Amazon. At least I know people want me there. And you'll just be like, be patient. And the day it started clicking, it clicked 3x. It wasn't like just a small bump or a small thing. No. We had to literally rework all the processes we had to start handling this kind of volume. And today, after a year, we're already at 10x. And now, obviously, we're aspiring to reach what Rubans and Snitch are doing, and that's the next target. So, data is obviously one thing. What works is what's clicking, what's working. Is the targeting working? Are you putting in budgets for successful audiences? Are you doing it? Are you targeting the right product to the right person in the right medium? That's more important, and that can only work with trial and error, right? I can put one ad to you in probably like on Instagram or on Facebook, but if you don't use Facebook, what's the point of putting them to you on Facebook? So that way, on basis of cohort, obviously this is analytics driven and instinct driven, right? Where you know that not everybody in our generation uses Facebook anymore. So why, let's put an age limit targeting when you're running ads on Facebook, and similar thing to Instagram. So that way, that's the way we've been working on, at least with our product. Obviously, iOS 14 has been a huge bump for us, since 95% of my products are made for the Apple ecosystem. But we've been able to find a way around because Apple enthusiasts are quite loud. It's not that I'm targeting on the device space. I can start targeting on behavior. I can start targeting on interest. Like I said, it's a little bit more trial and error. You lose more hair on your head, but eventually you do get sales, so it's fine.
So that will be the end of our panel discussion focusing upon strategies related to performance marketing. Just one more discussion we will, and then we look forward to some informal chit chats and fruitful discussions at the bar. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Rohin, Muskan, and Naval. Thanks, Akash. I hope we all learned a lot of new things today. Well, as the last discussion, which will be about financing, which will be about getting investments for your business, I would like to invite Apoor, who heads Shiprocking Ventures. I would also like to invite Nitya, who's VP at 314 Capital, and Umair.
Hi guys, sorry, I'm back so quickly. I think I ran out of MCs, so that's my part-time gig. So it doesn't work out.
Between all of us, we have created enough content to set up an edtech startup. So we'll be doing that part-time. And we can get some investment also, right?
If core business or edtech doesn't work, stand-up comedy to that's like the final destination, right? But welcome Apoor, Nitya, and I hope that previous two discussions added some value, some thoughts, thought-provoking insights to you guys as well. I know you're from the investment side, but hearing brand story, what's scaling up, about the challenges of marketing, I hope that there was a value add.
No, thank you so much for hosting this first of all. And it's always great to hear it from the horse's mouth, because from where we sit, we kind of hear it in third person. So it's always kind of great to learn on ground. And these are some challenges that we're always aware of given the B2C exposure that we have. But it's also kind of great to see that it's a problem across the board.
So I am a 2 times failed founder in the past. So when I hear stories from all of you and I speak to founders on a daily basis, partly I am immensely envious and partly I am immensely impressed. So I'm constantly living in that conflict. But I mean, I'm always up for hearing founders, because they are the ones who really make us aware of what's happening on the ground.
And so I think that's what the idea was. Constant, state of split between envy and proud. We all perpetually live in it. Oh, he's a great founder. Oh, I wish the startup. No, I don't wish, but we face that. We need competition everywhere, right? So we all go through those motions together as founders. We're very protective of our brand, and we're very protective of about how the journey that we've done. But let's not talk about it, because it would need 2 evenings like these for me to go about my journey. But let's talk about what we have. You guys are from the investments. You're from the other side of the table. Apoor, you lead Shiprocket Ventures. Nitya, you're VP of investment at 314 Capital. By the way, that stands for pie, because of pies, right? So I think it was obvious, but Nitya told me in the evening it's not. So I thought I'd just say it. So we want to hear from the other side of the table, right? We've heard the founders talk about the journey and challenges, but from the other side of the table, what is it? And I'll straight up go to the point, right? Enough of flip-flap. What makes a D2C startup for you guys as investors, an investor-worthy startup, right? Investment-worthy startup versus another brand that's come into the market, or maybe they're both at the same stage or scale, but what sets one brand apart in terms of investment? What are your key metrics? And Apoor, I want you to go first, and then probably Nitya, you can also chime in about what is it, how you're setting it apart in terms of when it comes to specifically D2C investments.
Thank you. I'll also quickly introduce myself. So, I lead Shiprocket Ventures. I've been in the industry for close to 10 years now. I've worked in different startups, so that experience helps me in understanding how different startup trajectories could carry out. So to answer your question, I think I have a formal answer to that and I have an informal answer to that. The formal answer is that the first thing that really helps us create a foundation is your foundation use case. Something that's driven you till now, something that will keep driving you. So while you will keep building up your portfolio, your distribution channels, your marketing campaigns, there is likely to be one or two use cases which will drive your growth and which will affect 50 to 60% of your P&L economics. So are you spending enough energy and devotion to that, which will see you through thick and thin, which will see you through the competition that will come in, which will help you deliver significant amounts of your target, and which will scare off competitors from touching that category, from that use case. So that is what we call mode. The other thing is market and messaging. So while we all have a fair idea of the next 2 years, what happens after that? Will the market grow significantly enough to take your category and your brand along with it? Because you can't keep fighting the market all your life, right? After 2 years, you need the market to help you as well. And so ending up in the top 3, you're trying to end up in the top 3, top 5, top 10 of our subcategories. That's important for the next 2 years because when the market explodes, it should carry you with it, right? When tier 2, tier 3 explodes, it will carry you with it. And that's where performance marketing and the offline-online discussion that we just had were pertinent. And finally, the messaging, it's extremely important in the beginning. You get one good shot at creating a good impression at the customers. I'll give you an example. There was one brand we worked with which was struggling a lot with messaging. It was basically a meal in a bottle format, and it was trying all kinds of messaging, wholesome, this, that. Finally, they came up with a messaging of Nutri-Full or full of nutrients, and that somehow created like 3 times the impact for every ad, for every touch point. And so, it is important to work on your messaging. Your product is in your DNA. You will never stop working on it, but the messaging is really important. So, the more market and messaging, that really helps. The informal part of it is, what is the itch that you're trying to scratch as a founder? आप क्यों कर रहे हो? Why will you continue doing it for 3 years? Why you and nobody else is the right person to deliver it? Forget the exits and forget who will take care of it afterwards. Why are you the right person to deliver it? I want to understand why you're trying to scratch that itch. That helps a lot. So at these discussions, even when I was the founder, I realized much of these discussions was more of a psychometric test of my personality rather than the evaluation of the performance.
I absolutely kind of agree with what Apoor said, and I'll add my 2 cents here, right? So some of the things that, in my opinion, kind of differentiates any brand from a brand that ends up raising funding is also the fact that how you're able to make that connect with the user, right? So Siddharth here talked about not just being a product but being a brand, having a narrative, having a story, right? That works in a lot of cases. But it's also like coming down to seeing, can I get my user back on the platform? Great, I've acquired Nitya as a user, but can you make a sale to Nitya 5 times in a year? Are you able to create that engagement? I think that kind of really differentiates because in today's markets, right, one of the things that we've realized, especially with tier 1 India now, is that users are willing to try. So everybody will, more often than not, with adding to his point, if you get your messaging right, you will always be able to acquire a user. But can you get that user back, keep incentivizing that user to come back? I think that's where the real battle is to be won, and I think that's where the key challenge, and that's where one of the key modes lie in addition to what Apoor just said.
Thanks for the formal and informal part. I'm sure we all love the informal part. because as a founder I've been asked this question, why are you doing it, right? Like why? And as founders also sometimes we learn to navigate that questions like data, that's it, family, so yeah, but I feel that a lot of times there's no one single answer to it, but it's also a combination of factors, right? Why is someone building something, and what have they what have they built over the years? So for me, whenever someone asks me why are you building Viso, what's and I always had like one answer to that I absolutely love data. Okay, and I love how different interpretation of data is to different people. That same data means something to a person that we show. It completely means something else to, and the inference that we drive out of data was the learning curve that I had to take. But I absolutely love playing around with data, understanding, and that was the age I was trying to solve. Honestly, there was no other age while building it. So, but you're right. Like that is what investors are. Because luckily I've slightly tried to move on this side of the table, and I've now realized, oh, that's why they were asking that question. Oh, that's what it means in the psychometric analysis. So I completely get your point. But thanks for sharing with us. Thanks for sharing with when you, I'm sure you're talking to a lot of D2C. 314 Capital is, you mentioned some numbers in crores. That's very difficult for me to comprehend. I've not seen it on a check or even in bank accounts. Just read it. That's the kind of capital 314 is deployed. So tell me, as a investor, I'm sure as a founder it's hard, seeing that journey. But as an investor, is it harder? Is it the kind of you're constantly talking to multiple brands and multiple founders, and all founders are not just brand custodians. They have their own personalities, and some are stubborn, difficult to work with, very working on their own vision, executing their vision. So how easy or difficult has it been, as part of the 314 Capital team, when you work with these D2C founders, and you've had a bird's eye view and you try to talk to them about some of the product, how easy or difficult? And we would love some anecdotes of some of the incidents that happened, or some places where you mentioned something. So I want to really go back behind the scenes, right? Really hear it from you about some of these investment stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for one thing, I would like to set the record straight is that we've not had, I think all founders are good founders, one. Secondly, we've had, we've had the fortune of, yes. See, the reason I say that is also because one of the things that we realized very early on and as a very young team is that every founder is on their learning journey. And as long as we don't respect that learning journey, we're not doing a great job as investors. So and if you look at it from that lens, I think it builds a lot of empathy in the relationship. Now coming down to how easy or difficult it is to work with founders, I personally felt that, see, when you're clear about the vision that you're building, right, everything that comes along with it, whether that's building a supply chain out, whether that's building a logistics network out, whether that's building marketing, and whether that's getting down to getting an investor to believe in you and explain it to them in a psychometric assessment as to hamara HQ hai. It all kind of boils down to what is the larger goal that you're going after and how soon can you build buy-in, right? So, and I've mostly seen people exist on two very varying ends of that spectrum. So some people are able to build buy-in like this, right? And that's also the function of how you communicate and what you don't communicate. And I'm being very honest here, right? And the other end of the spectrum is where you kind of struggle to build that buy-in from a larger group. But I think personally for us and as a fund, we've been very strategic about what we bet in consumers. So we invested in companies like Licious, Kapiva, Habit Health, and along the journey, right, all of these founders have been really phenomenal and very heads down in where they want to and what they want to build. So we've built this relationship grounds up, saying that we trust you in what you are doing. You come back to us and tell you where we can help you. Along the way, we maintain an oversight and we continuously do. So 314 is actually one of the few firms in the country that actually has their own research arm built in-house. So we do a lot of research on behalf of our companies, saying that this is what we're seeing. If you find this valuable, come have a chat with us. And that's really helped us build very strong relationships inside, outside of boardrooms, and essentially I think behind the scenes, like for a lot of my companies, I'm the end consumer. So there have been times when, like on the deck somebody would write big that I'm going after tier 1 millennial Gen Z users, and I'd be like, sir, this doesn't speak to me. So if you're trying to come to me, like come with a smaller packaging, bundle this, and things like that, right? But for us, I think one of our largest strengths has been that, and I think we've overused this word tonight in the room, but for us, we're also very data driven. So we do a lot of work around, let's say search data. We do a lot of work around what's playing out globally, and we've been able to equip our companies and say that, this is something that we see playing out in the next 5 or 6 or 8 months. So this is playing out globally. Why don't you pay attention to this and see how quickly can you experiment to launch something, right? So that's been like, for example, with the Kapiva also, we've been able to go back to them and tell them that, great, you've built a great portfolio out so far, but here are the next 5 things that we feel can be big in consumer, and as a horizontal platform, why don't we start with one and go from there?
Okay, so I think there were 2 questions there. I'll maybe answer the first one, which is founders are difficult to work with. They have to be, because they spend the first 13 hours being difficult with their vendors and employees, and then they suddenly can't turn soft the next hour. But it's good. The only thing I try to understand is, are you being difficult with the problem of investment and growth, or are you just trying to be difficult for me, because of me? I am not your obstacle. The investment is your obstacle, right? So let's solve this problem together. I may not be the best investment partner or a business partner, or even a sounding board for you, but let's try and solve this problem together. So one question I sometimes ask is, if you had, if you forget Shiprocket, if you had any one investor to choose from, who would you choose? And the second question is, if you had unlimited budget to hire a co-founder, who would you hire? So that also gives us a very good understanding of what really is on their mind and how hard they are willing to work to solve that problem, what their approach is basically. Once you understand that approach, it becomes easier to come to a solution, because a lot of the discussion has to be around, we have to solve this problem, not that we have to solve this discussion with me. So I know that there was a founder who, in their stubbornness, missed not only the Shiprocket Ventures as an opportunity, but many others, because they got stuck on an approach. And one of them, who was stubborn with the problem, was able to solve it without Shiprocket Ventures. We were late, we missed out. So, it's, it depends on how you're treating the problem. I hope that answers it.
On the part of unlimited budget for co-founder, half of it is Kunal Shah. Some is saying Ashir Grover. Go free aajkal.
Phased out.
So I think that's the my rad of answers being thrown. If you had unlimited budget, and while the real co-founder is sitting, what's happening? What's happening, bro? No, but thanks for the insights, right? And I think that also brings to my next question. With so many enablers and venture capitalists, and now even the founders getting into angel seed investment, obviously a lot of money is going back into the ecosystem, but also leads to another problem of valuations, right? So
100% as an investor. Obviously, for a founder, highest valuation, right? Highest multiple. If someone is getting 100x of revenue from a SaaS company in US, then that's what they want, right? That's their benchmark. But as an investor, because of all of this, what's happening in the enabler ecosystem, in the VC ecosystem, in the direct-to-consumer space I'm talking about, valuations are also, fluctuating, skyrocketing. So when you hear some outlandish valuations or some even or the other end of the spectrum, maybe a founder who's not experienced with fundraising, maybe undervaluing their startup, right? So what exactly do you do in those situations when you encounter really high valuations completely off the charts, and when you encounter someone maybe undervaluing their product and this thing? What are your thoughts around? Can you throw some light in there also around how you deal with the problem of valuations, both overvalued and undervalued?
So that's a very so that's a very tough question. Every time we speak to a founder, we have to immerse ourselves in that subcategory before having a discussion on valuation for that subcategory. But the first thing we like to discuss is first principles of how a business value is determined. One of which is, if you are raising this capital, how can we derive the best returns for your business out of this capital, so that it genuinely adds to your business and to your business value for the next round or 6 months down the line. Right? The whole point of this valuation is that it's supposed to grow. Your business value is supposed to grow in the next 6, 12, 18 months. If it doesn't grow and you have to live with that valuation, you also have to live with the consequences of having the same valuation for the next 2 years. So first, let's just understand on the infused capital ROI, right? What are you going to achieve from that? The second way of just quickly understanding valuation is, if I were to go and look at different buyers in the market today and sell your business, what would be the value? And there are different kinds of buyers that have come into the market now. It's not just additional VC money. It's different FMCG groups who are looking at it. There are Thrasio models. There is even a new model where there's a house of brands, an umbrella of brands that has come up. I discussed that with you, which are like a layer between your VC and your ultimate strategy buyout. If I were to go to these people, would they buy it at this valuation or close to this valuation? And if they would, why would they do that? Right? If I were to sell this to them 1 year down the line with 10 more competitors in the market, what would be the valuation? The first principles have to be answered adequately. I know benchmarking is often a very quick way to arrive at a valuation, but benchmarking changes every single month. I cannot use a benchmark from even the previous month to set a valuation, simply because there are new entrants, business has changed, growth has changed, plans have changed, etc. So valuations, whether they are a conservative multiple of 4 or 5 or they are a very high multiple of 10, 15, we can look at that given your brand, category and market variables, each like a variable in a linear equation, right? So when each is contributing to your multiple, that's fine. I can look at a higher valuation. But let us solve these first principles first. That will give us a better idea. And always important to look at it from both a bottoms up and a top down approach. The bottoms up approach is, what is the immediate market? Combine all your competitors, how many sales they have made in the next 2 years, right? Don't forget TAM. What is the immediate market? Let's do a very optimistic projection on that. Does that indicate a market for which your valuation is justified? The top-down approach is the market approach. Let's look at the ultimate market and let's assume a very conservative market share of that. When you combine both these approaches, then also you can arrive at a valuation. So it's a combination of things that we have to look at. It's a science. And I'm not a data science guy like you. So I rely on other smarter, more intelligent folks to help me with that. But it is a science and it has to be answered very adequately before arriving at something.
I think I completely echo with what Apoor said, and I'll just add a couple of other points here, right? So, a lot of times you also have to factor in whether you are a category creator or are you a category disruptor, and where you are in that journey of yours, right? So, if you're creating a new category, as an investor, if I can underwrite, and as he said, market dynamics have changed and they keep changing, right? So the market dynamics, especially with funding, were very different last year, let's say, as compared to this year. So can you the way you will underwrite a category creator will be very different from how you underwrite a category disruptor. And there the linear equation that we talked about, that really comes into play. So those are some of those things that you have to kind of keep into consideration when you are valuing a business, right? And one of the other core things that a lot of times is not spoken about, right? And this is again like more informal than formal is see investors coming with the idea of earning a multiple on their investment, right? So even if I'm looking at an asset that's priced higher than what my math would arrive at, but as a founder and as a team and as a company, if you can justify why, let's say you're a category creator or you're the best place to disrupt a category, it's a price worth paying for.
I think that's, yeah.
Can we ask a few folks here what they look for as support from investors post-investment? I would love to hear a few thoughts from all of you. And yeah, please feel free to give your thoughts openly.
I think that's a great idea. We have a lot of brands and a lot of brands who have raised and some of the brands who have bootstrapped. So what are the things that you look at from a, no, this mic is fine.
Hello everyone, my name is Akshay. I am from Go High. So one of the main things we look for is the support because we don't have expertise in everything. So sometimes a founder might lack in building a team, scaling a product to like understanding the mass reach of like the marketing aspect of it. The main thing we look for expertise in specific segment like the building a team. Because first time founders don't understand who to hire, what are the right person to hire. So they have a good experience talking to new people, they have the good connection. So they have the support for a startup, like what they can build around, like what are the people which are right for that particular startup.
That's an excellent point. I'll just make an additional point to that. Whenever I've spent, say, an hour working on an organizational structure or even taking an interview for us with a startup leader, that's the best use of our combined time, for sure. That is 10x impact on that time. Because the other things, I mean, we are more than happy to let the founders, take lead off. But yeah, finding awesome people in your first team, the immediate layer of leadership beneath you, that is the toughest, that is extremely tough.
Yeah, that's just, don't even get me started. That's not.
Hi, my name is Omar and I'm the co-founder of Koski. So we have a ethnic occasion wear brand for women. I think for us, for me and for our team, when we look at a founder, an investor, what is important I feel is that most founders, what we are able to do is we are able to do jugaad and get our business to 40-50 crore. 50 crore, 70 crore tak to pahunch jayega. Because till then we can do jugaad. You just hustle and you do a bunch of things. But when you get to a certain level, then you have to look at it differently. What got you there will not take you to the next level. So how do you get to 100? How do you get to a 200? So for us it is more about, having been there and done that. What are the things we should just not do? Forget these things, we have tested and try this works. And then obviously we'll bring our insights into knowing the category in depth of, how do we marry the two. So from our perspective, we would look at founders who can actually take it to the next level because of the expertise they have from the portfolio of their brands because they are similar and they bring their in. So that's how I look at it. Of course, other than, insights in terms of many other things like team building, structures which come with larger organizations.
I think that's a great point that you made right up there, right? Leveraging existing synergies and existing learnings, right? And I think somewhere there, I think investors do and should ideally play a more bigger role in bringing a community together around their portfolio, because there are just so many learnings that are to be shared. Like anecdotally, recently, at an event I connected founder of somebody who's building an audio platform in India with someone who's building an apparel brand in India. Both of them catering to tier 2. And it was just a conversation on steroids, and both of them just walked away with so many learnings. So I think one of the other aspects to that is also like holding your investors accountable to opening up people to you in offline settings. I think that also becomes critical there.
I think opening doors is one of the things that obviously 3 and 4 is, I personally experienced, right? So opening doors on various, in one conversation, you're talking to some of the top tier people in the country. And it's just phenomenal, right? Because otherwise there is, for a first time founder who's building in an early stage of the journey, those doors, you are not even thinking about those doors. And you write an email, to help you out, and then suddenly you get like a flurry of connections with top-notch people. So yeah, I think connections is definitely, I've personally experienced it. It works, and when someone from your cap table is introducing you X person for whatever reason, right, networking or business or whatever, that impact that it creates, they hear you. It's not just like a connection on paper. They hear you out because someone important, someone at a pedigree has connected you to them. So I think that's also a very fair point.
Add to that. Just one more point to add to that, and this is something that I tell all my founders. So by building and retaining a cap table, be very smart about who you're bringing on board, and secondly, know and consistently use your cap table to your advantage, right? Every investor out there on your cap table should add more value to you than the capital. It can be 1% that they bring to the table, but it might just change your game and you never know.
So I think talking about investments and everything and valuations, let's talk about exits, right? Nitya is laughing. It's a touchy subject, I'm sure. But let's talk about exits a little bit, right? So in terms of D2C, and you have to feel free to quote a few examples as well. Exit opportunities that are there right now or will be there. Could you briefly touch on that point? But if you can elaborate exit opportunities that exist today, 6 months, year, 2 years down the line. I don't want to go beyond 2 years because this space is changing so fast that sometimes it's not, we're not able to keep up. But what are some of the exit opportunities that you guys see, and some of the strategic plays that you see building up over the next 2 years, and also clubbed into that question is, I also want to know slightly not personal, but in terms of investment, 2 of your favorite brands that you invested and you're really happy about it. Not maybe it's because their products are excellent, right? Or maybe because of their strategy and their growth is excellent. But 2 of your personal favorite investment, second part of the question. But first is, let's talk about exits and opportunities to exit from an investor's perspective.
Sure. So and especially when it comes to D2C and exits, right? And I talked about creating a category and disrupting a category. I think one has to be very real about which end of the spectrum that they operate in, right? So for us as a fund and as a larger investor pool also, when we're underwriting category creators, we're very happy to underwrite public market outcomes, right? And we see in the next, not maybe 6 months, but from the 12 months to like the next 36-month horizon, we see India as a country, and with SPACs becoming an option in the US, we see that a lot more opportunities opening up for just consumer behavior being driven in India to be taken both to our public markets and global public markets. So there's a lot of good sentiment and positive sentiment that we see. I think Nykaa IPO was a testament to how big the Indian consumer story can be and how it's still at the tip of the iceberg, right? And when it comes to category, disruptors, I think again, if you're top of the game, I think underwriting a large enough outcome probably by public markets is a great option. But from what I'm seeing in the last year and a half is also a lot of capital flowing in, a lot of global interest coming in into the country, both in terms of larger corporates and even larger kind of PE funds who are now actually seriously looking at India, right? So as a fund, we've raised a lot of our institutional capital both between domestic and foreign institutions. And one of the things that we realize is that we're finally at that cusp, or we're finally at that inflection point where we're putting India on the map for global capital. So that's one thing to take into consideration. And with the whole house of brands and Thrasio model, you can also you're able to underwrite very predictable outcomes in my opinion, right here. And the last thing to kind of notice here is that, that journey to a 100 crore mark, took like the first generation of brands maybe a decade, the next generation of brands maybe 5 years. And today increasingly I see that time come down to anywhere between 36 months to up to within 36 months also. And I say that because, I've spent now good 3 years, just studying the consumers in India across tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And if you see what we've built out in consumer so far with Commerce 1.0, D2C 1.0, is a lot of focus on tier 1, right? But there's such a large market that we've now started, a lot of brands have now started to explore beyond tier 1 in India. And it's just so massive that I think evaluation will be like on top of the past by the time we cross the 24-month, 36-month mark, if we prove how large the D2C opportunity in India is.
Again, a very difficult thing to answer in a framework, because much of our conversations on exits are more about defining what an exit is and what scenarios could happen rather than what exit you want. Because it's easier to understand what returns you'll get through different types of exits. I could very simply say, okay, this will be a strategic buyout will be 5-6x, a VC would be 10x. That is the easier part. The tougher part is, up to exit, how do you want to grow the business? Post-exit, whether you are involved or not, how do you see your brand, product and category growing for the next few years? I know you said we'll restrict it to the first 2 years, but a lot of the exits that have happened are a 10-year journey, are a 10-year story. But when we discuss exits in the present context, it's like a 3-year journey, which is not maybe an exit. It's just an investment being parked somewhere for a larger exit that's waiting in the wings. So much of the conversation is around what does an exit mean? Do you think your brand and category will continue to grow for the 10 years after that exit, right, and achieve that value? If your category has a growth lifetime of 15 years, right? There's a growth lifetime, then there is a steady growth, then there is another inflection point that will happen sometime in the future, we can't say. But if you look at product lifetimes, we are very early in your category. Imagine the FMCG products that we use today, we started using in the 90s. So the category lifetime is very long. Do you want to stay with that lifetime for the next 3 years, the first 3 years of that category, or do you want to live with it for the next 5 to 10 years? Because the value will grow, right, wherever it is parked. So when we have these insightful conversations, automatically we start arriving at a conclusion that, okay, I understand what you're saying. This is not, there is an exit possible in 2-3 years with the folks that we are already conversing with. And obviously the folks we converse with, exits also influence us on exits. But there is this is actually not a 3-year, this is a 6-year journey. And I feel that I should be, instead of an exit, I want a semi-exit, right, after 3 years. So, if I were to conclude this, exit is basically not an exit. It is an investment being parked or a semi-exit. And you have to understand whether you want to continue being a part of it afterwards or not. So, I think those insightful discussions help us arrive at and it's not always an overnight decision. You often need like 2-3 follow-up conversations to arrive at an answer.
two investments that you were happy, proud.
Yeah, so I have always been a fan of people who, fan of product and marketing going together. There was one brand, there's one brand which makes organic fragrance products and sort of built a messaging along with the product, which is this product is for a healing touch. So whether it was fragrance or other associated products, they worked with that messaging in mind, and that really helped them in their early part. So I was a big fan of that team, and we ended up
Open to name them?
not right away, but I think we can do that at some point. Then another was maybe the one I mentioned before. Again, that company was had started with the vision of providing like all essential nutrients in a meal. They were under a lot of pressure to pivot to only protein because they were like the spurt of protein oriented products that had come up, including FMCG brands. So they were under a lot of pressure from their own angel investors to do that, but they did not build to that pressure. They continued with that messaging, and that's helped them carve a slight niche for themselves. So I was a big fan of that clarity from founders.
For us, I think Kapiva is one brand that I'm very happy and proud of. And also because, I've also been a personal user of Kapiva. I've seen very few brands kind of deliver the kind of efficacy that sits at the core of products. And for example, I moved to Bangalore from Delhi, had a major pollen issue going on. I tried everything from homeopathy to allopathy, and ultimately that worked. Something that worked was a Kapiva product. So I think, leaving everything aside, if somebody can deliver me an efficacious product, it's so far been Kapiva for me. And the other journey that I've really admired even before I joined 314 was the Licious journey. I think building a brand out of something that's a commodity is a very, very hard challenge, because you're not building a brand, you're actually building a supply chain business. And the brand is a means to an end. And being on that thin rope and playing both of those sides, I think both Abhay and Vivek have done a very phenomenal job. Like, I work personally with Abhay to know that how obsessed he is with every small element of the Licious experience, right? So whether that's what's written on the box, to who appears on the box, to what the packaging material is, to the extent of what it should feel like when a delivery person delivers a Licious box at someone's doorstep. So early days, somebody was going and without the box, it seemed like they were delivering a packet, and they said, okay, we need to put it in a packet, and at the same time not bleed money while we are doing that. So delivering customer experience at the same and not taking a hit on the P&L, I think that's been a very, very major learning for me. So I think those are two brands that I speak very, very highly of.
You meant brands apart from Vixo, right? Yes, a little bit of self-promotion, I can't help it. I think I'm born. I'm born with it. Yeah, like I said, I can't help it. I had to move my chair so that my logo is visible. Thanks for that, guys. Really insightful, and I think we got a lot of inputs from the brand and from both sides, and from the investment side. So thank you for taking all the time and taking us through these tidbits. And obviously we have a networking session upstairs, so feel free to pick their brains. Because I'm sure these guys can talk about investments and investing for the next couple of hours until they're fully drunk. Even after that, some people never stop. So feel free to do that. But again, I'd like to thank every one of you to come here, sit patiently, listen to us me blab, sorry, not us. I'm going to charge them twice for doing 2 panels. As long as it's in equity, right? So, thank you so much for joining us, and I want to thank all the panelists, all the 3 panels and all the panelists that were there. I also want to thank all the brands that took out the time. This is the first version of D2C Verse in Bangalore. Hopefully, we'll learn a lot from this. We'll improve it in the next version. Like for example, setting up a time which, when it doesn't rain, and that could be very hard, but in Bangalore, but also setting up a place which is protected either ways, and maybe do these smaller community-led events or meetups that adds value to the whole value chain, right? That was the idea that we started with, and this is what we want to continue. So feedbacks are always welcome, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and yeah, we're all happy to go upstairs and network and have a few drinks. The weather is nice. Like someone asked me, when do you drink? I said, only on 2 days, when it rains and when it doesn't rain. So feel free, train today, right? So it's day one. Let's all head upstairs. And again, thank you so much. I couldn't be prouder of the team to put this together in matter of maybe 10 days. That they pulled all of this together. So hats off to the team that did it, both from Adyogi and from Wixo. And thanks for everyone who came and the panelists who came today. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, so from all of us, we'd like to congratulate you, Umer, Peak and team, for organizing this on, quite quickly and reorganizing this in the last 1 hour leading up to the event. Brilliant initiative. First step towards creating a very successful community from which we can all benefit, and he was serious about getting feedback. So please make this a very vibrant community so that we can all learn from each other, because we planned, that's the whole point of this entire initiative. So please do that. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you both.
Sorry? There is a box? No. So guys, we've assembled a D2C box with our favorite D2C brands, but we've not, unfortunately, we couldn't carry all of those together. So what we've done is, we have a t-shirt, the D2C Verse t-shirt. We've specifically kept logos out of the D2C Verse t-shirt so that you can wear it apart from while sleeping, because that's what happens with brand t-shirts, right? You only wear them while sleeping. So we've created D2C Verse t-shirts that are available in 3 different sizes, and once you give the feedback though, right, it's only available to those who give feedback. So it's available upstairs, but there is also a QR code inside it. You can scan it and you can then fill out your details, and we'll ship you the D2C box that we have created for each one of you. It's specifically curated, all the products that I personally use. No, I'm kidding, I don't all use them. But they're all brands that we love, that we work with, and they vouch for our work and we vouch for their products. So, and again, because it's community-led, we want to create a healthy ecosystem of brands helping other brands, founders helping other founders, right? So you have a look at that D2C box. It contains maybe 5 or 6 items from our favorite D2C brands, and we would love to get feedback on that as well. So that's it. That was what you wanted to announce. I did it. Sorry. I'm anyways charging twice, so it doesn't make any difference.
Maybe we go upstairs for now.